Oh, welcome back for part two. And culture controversial. Now, what I remember from my childhood is it was a childhood. You played with your friends or your brothers and sister, and you didn't worry about the environment or pollution or definitely not knife crime. Even going through school, secondary school, it was fisticuffs, and the only drugs I saw is kids having a sneaky cig, and but there was respect. There was respect for your parents, and they gave you respect as well. If there's any medication, you had you had medication. You just took it, and when you were school, um, you all had the same stuff, and you were grateful for it. And if there was the nurse, the whole class went through it, and everybody knew your weight if you were big or small or thin and whatever. And it was part of life's knocks and building stamina. Um, yeah, there was pluses and minuses. I mean, the medication nowadays and technology, and yeah, there is mental illness, which is horrific. The laws be bullying, which again is horrific, but you'll never stop it. Just make sure it doesn't become fatal. I mean, that's totally horrific. That's going on now. Very rare. So anyway, let's continue and see what you make of this.
Through an operation that barely needed doing in the first place. Number 7. The tonsillectomy conveyor belt. All through the 1970s, tens of thousands of British schoolchildren had their tonsils removed every single year, very often after nothing more than a couple of ordinary sore throats. Members of Parliament eventually stood up and described the whole trend as an expensive fad, and the Medical Research Council was formally asked to investigate why so many children were going under the knife for such thin clinical reason. On any given day back then, roughly one child in every 3 occupying a hospital bed was there simply for that one single operation. Ice cream afterward was the reward every child clearly remembered, though far fewer remembered ever being told exactly why the operation had been necessary in the first place. A doctor recommending that same operation on that same flimsy evidence today would be pulled up by the hospital board within the week. That operation at least came with a doctor's signature on a form somewhere. The next piece of medical advice came with little more than a shrug of the shoulders. Number 6. Walk it off. A child limping into the surgery with a sprained ankle, a hairline fracture, or even a mild concussion after a fall in the playground was very often sent straight home with nothing more than a bandage and a pat on the head. There was no automatic scan booked in, no specialist referral offered, and painkillers stronger than plain aspirin were rarely even discussed for a young patient. You were told simply to rest it and keep your weight off it for a few days, and that was considered the end of the entire matter. It is one of the reasons so many people from this generation still quietly nurse an old injury today that never quite healed the way it really should have. And speaking of things nobody quite got right the first time round, wait until you reach number 2 on this list, because it involves a machine that fired straight through your sleeve without a single word of warning beforehand. That advice cost you a proper diagnosis at the time. The next treatment cost you your dignity right there in the school corridor. Number 5. The eye patch and the thick national health spectacles. Children diagnosed with a lazy eye were fitted with a solid patch and told to wear it to school all day long, in full view of classmates who very rarely let it pass without comment. Alongside that came the glasses themselves, heavy wireframes or pink plastic ones handed out free of charge by the National Health Service, chosen almost entirely for cost rather than for comfort or style. Medically, the treatment usually worked out exactly as intended in the end. Socially, though, it could make the school playground feel like the single hardest part of the whole day for months on end. Your eyes were being quietly corrected out in public. The next correction happened in private, and it happened without any warning at all. Number 4. Minor surgery carried out without proper anesthetic. Infants and young children undergoing small procedures, including routine circumcision, were very frequently given little to no pain relief at all during the operation itself. The reasoning most doctors gave at the time was strikingly simple, and now sounds almost impossible to believe. They will not remember it anyway. Parents were rarely told anything different by the consultant in charge, and the idea that a small baby could genuinely feel real pain during a procedure simply was not taken nearly as seriously as it is by doctors today. Modern pediatric guidance now insists on proper pain management in exactly these situations, largely because of cases just like these ones from decades ago. That one happened quietly, well out of public sight. The next one happened out in the open, on every single children's ward in the country. Number 3. Toys and equipment shared straight across the whole ward without a second thought. The same wooden building blocks, the same battered teddy bear missing an eye, and very often the same thermometer or stethoscope passed from one child straight to the next, with barely a wipe down in between patients. Children recovering from measles or scarlet fever sometimes played with the very same toys as children admitted for something entirely unrelated further down the same ward. Hygiene standards we take completely for granted in any hospital today simply did not exist in most British children's wards of this particular decade. If you felt that exact smell right at the very start of this video, this is very likely where it first came from. That was the danger you could never quite see coming. The next one you could absolutely feel right through your sleeve in an instant. Number 2. The jet gun fired down a long line of rolled up sleeves. On school inoculation day, children queued patiently in the corridor while a high-pressure injector gun fired vaccines straight through the skin with a sharp hiss and no visible needle at all. There was no explanation offered beforehand, no real choice given to anybody in that queue, and certainly nobody thought to ask a 9-year-old how they felt about any of it. You simply rolled up your sleeve, heard that unmistakable hiss from the child standing just in front of you, and braced yourself for your own turn to come. Plenty of people from this generation can still describe that exact sound decades on, word for word, which says everything you need to know about how deep that particular memory still sits. That sound stayed with you for years afterward. The very last item on this list stayed with people even longer than that. Number 1. The ether mask. Right through into the 1980s, British dentists routinely used ether, or nitrous oxide gas, for tooth extractions on children, delivered through a plain rubber mask pressed firmly over the nose and mouth in the dentist's chair. Patients describe a strange rubbery smell filling the room, a rushing sound building up in the ears, and vivid hallucinations as they slowly went under, very often with no local anesthetic ever offered as an alternative option at all. Some adults today, fully 50 years on, say they can still recall that exact smell the very moment anyone even mentions a childhood trip to the dentist. It remains, for many people of this generation, the single most vividly remembered medical experience of their entire childhood, more than any injection or operation anywhere else on this whole list. So, there they are. 15 things doctors and nurses did to British children that the whole country...
Right, some personal input, yeah. I remember having me adenoids and tonsils out, and I remember the ice cream and jelly. Apparently now they give you raw toast. Medication moves on. There was there was a time they used to use leeches, which was the thing to do. And what makes me laugh if they still manage to make it work with a little black boy and a little white girl, and it's yeah, it's almost mind blowing that things they're so patronising, condescending, um, and yeah, people make mistakes, things move on. When cholera before it was associated with water, they were doing the worst things possible. Say with diabetes, people were thirsty, so they're drinking any liquids. And got a funny story. I went to Hadrian's Wall. Never been to Scotland, got as far as Hadrian's Wall, and I fell, tripped. Okay, so yeah, must have walked a mile and a half, couple of miles, and by the time I got home, my ankle went boom. I got on with it, no any painkillers or what. And it was only later, many decades later, I actually found I had a fracture in my ankle. And falling over, you pick yourself up and brushed it off. I mean, now a lot of this about work, it goes way too much the other way. You've got to have backbone. You've got to have stamina. You can't get away from some things. Um, but medication and God has come in leaps and bounds. So we know what we don't have to do and what we do, and things are constantly changing. As is treatment, it wasn't until the Falklands War that they discovered it's better to wear burns than cover them up. Like I say, things are always moving forward. So yeah, but don't like the condescending tones at all.